Yo, what is up, folks? MTG here with a bit of a spicier brew today. It is Tuesday after all. We've got Meta Monday now. Tuesday brew. It's not making a thing. Unless. This is a new take on Hardened Scales, playing really hard into enchantment theme. We have a bunch of enchantments in the Pioneer Explorer format that care about counters, so let's try and unite them all in one shell. So we have Hardened Scales. Ye old faithful, if 1 or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature control, that many +1 are put on it instead. We then have like Ozolith here. This is not an enchantment, but it's the same effect as Hardened Scales. We're just playing 3 copies of it because it's legendary. 1 in the green for that same effect, but then also 1 in the green tap, put a +1/+1 counter on target artifact or creature you control, only as a sorcery, and if you've got spare copies, you can cycle it for 2. And then we get to the enchantments. So the most recent of these really to talk about is Innkeeper's Talent. 1 in the green, starts at level 1 and then there's a class that you can level up. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a counter on target creature you control. Okay, so it's like puts counters on other creatures, interacts well with like Hardened Scales, like you're going to multiply these counters. Level 2, permanents you control with counters on them have ward 1. Okay, nice, some like inbuilt protection. It's very cheap to level up, really nice for some of the control decks, rat dos, like the decks want to kill your stuff as well. And then level 3 for 4 mana gives you that same kind of ability. If you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many kinds of those counters on that permanent or player instead. It's 4 mana, so it's a lot, but like later in the game, you just got a lot of stuff to do, and all of it, like with Innkeeper's Talent in particular, like you're kind of like building up effects that just kind of stack on. When you play a creature, you can immediately buff it. It's got some inbuilt protection, and then hey, later on you get to buff it even more. All right. Enchantment fun doesn't end there. So we have Hunter's Talent. This also gives us some creature interaction as 1 in the green, again an enchantment. We'll get to why these enchantments are important and what it lets us do in a moment. When Hunter's Talent enters, target creature you control does damage equals to its power, target creature you don't control. The nice fight effect, except it's not quite fight because they don't get to fight back. And then 1 in the greens level that up. Whenever you attack, target creature gets +1/+1 and trample. That trample is really important. We can make some really big creatures by putting counters on them, being able to give them trample, giving us like a form of evasion. Really nice to finish the game, push it through versus like tokens and things like that. And then 4 mana for level 4. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature powerful or greater, draw a card. Okay, cool. So nice card advantage. And again, another one of these like class cards where we just get to play it and just level it up. And if the game goes late, we always have stuff to be doing. Lastly, and this might as well be called like class scales really, because we also have Ranger class. 1 in the green, when it enters, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. This is the only one of these enchantments that's actually making creatures. It's important, but 1 in the green to level it up. Whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. Okay, cool. So another static effect that's like giving us counters in play. And then for 4 mana, you get to look at the top card of your library and cast creature spells from the top. Okay, cool. So that gives us access to more creatures. And these like all stack up to do things in the late game where we're like playing against control decks that want to take us towards the late game, just kind of wrath us over and over again, or kill all our creatures. We have like value coming down the line. And in particular, Ranger class getting into like future sight creatures top of our deck. Really nice. So like we have all these enchantments that play real counters. Let's talk about what we're actually doing them. So let's go back to the start. At 1, we have Generous Visitor. We have enchantments that want to do things with counters. Generous Visitor says 1 mana 1/1. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And it's cast not into the battlefield, which is nice if you're putting like counters them and stuff. But then you get to start passing these +1/+1 counters around. We then have 2 really nice things to put +1/+1 counters on. Experiment 1 and a Pellet Collector. Experiment 1 is the most recent one of these from Pioneer Masters. 1 mana 1/1. It has the evolve abilities. When you play a creature with greater power or toughness, it gets a counter anyway. And then removes 2 +1/+1 counters from it to regenerate. And so we have like some larger creatures in the deck. Not loads and loads, is worth saying. But we have the ability to evolve it. But importantly, when you put counters on it, it can protect itself. Regenerate gives you protection from like Supreme Verdict. Damage based, like removal, that kind of thing. And that's really nice to have on a 1 mana creature. So it's a great 1 mana thing for us to stack counters on. Cool. We then also have Pellet Collector. It has a similar ability to evolve. Whenever another creature control enters or dies, if that creature's power is greater than Pellet Collector's, put a counter on it. But then also it gets trampled later in the game if you've got 3 or more counters on it. So we have 12 1 mana cards that like care about counters, and in particular the Pellet Collector and the Experiment 1 get bigger, and then the Generous Visitor passes counters around. Ideally, you're like getting to put the counters from Generous Visitor onto like one of these, rather than onto itself. Obviously, like kind of split the removal up, make your opponent have to deal with multiple things. And then these like have incidental things where they both get themselves counters, but then also benefit from having counters, being able to either protect themselves or get trampled and stuff. So the other creatures. We're doing counter stuff. We have a Bristly Bill Spine Sower here. 1 in the green for a 2/2. Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Comes down on 2, evolves both Experiment 1 and Pelt Collector, and lets you just make a bunch of counters with landfall triggers. We don't have any like fetch lands, I'm not playing Fable Pass or anything like that. I'm playing very fair and honest here, but just passing more counters around, and then has a 5 mana ability as like basically like a, if you're activating this, you're probably going to kill your opponent, but double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Again, like extra value in the late game, but hey, curves nicely with our other creatures, and then passes counters around. And then this is called like Enchantress scales, right? So we have generous visits, so this cares about like casting enchantments. The big like payoff for like later in the game, we got Setessan Champion. 2 and a green for a 1/3. That 1/3 then evolves Experiment 1, even if it's got counter on already, it's still got more toughness and so evolve. However, whenever an enchantment you control enters, +1/+1 counter on Setessan Champion and draw a card. So not only is it getting counters for like a scales type effects, but it's also drawing us card after card after card, ideally, if it goes unchecked. Importantly as well, it starts off life as a 1/3. It's also 3 mana. It's hard to fatal push. It's hard to remove with damage-based removal. Once you've got 1 trigger on it, it basically is like immune to most of the damage-based removal in the format, and then it's just drawing you card after card after card. That's the plan anyway. And lastly, we have Kodama of the Westry. 2 and a green for a 3/3 with reach. Modified creatures, in this case, creatures with +1/+1 counters, have trample. Again, getting like kind of trample effects to push through damage versus tokens is really important. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a basic land card, put that onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. That ability is huge. We don't have like Nykthos here. We want to cast so many individual green spells that we can't really afford to it. So this gets us access to like more mana, and lets us then like cast a bunch of enchantments in one turn or level these up, which is really, really nice. The mana base, 1 Boseiju, 17 forests, and 2 Lair of the Hydras. Again, most control decks that want to wrath you. And then I've also included a sideboard here, but I'm going to take this into some best of 1 ranked, just to kind of like test it out and see it in a couple of different matchups. So sideboard we have here. At the minute, this is a bit of a hold-all. So we've got 2 copies of Pick Your Poison, and these are splitting space with 2 copies of Haywire Might. The reason for the split here is that ideally we need creatures, well, we need a number of creatures in the deck just to have in there to put counters onto. These have some like, you can put them into play, kind of like, all right, cool, we're going to play with them, beat you down with them for a bit, and then like when you cast like Ley Line Binding and try and entrap that important stuff, hey, we can like exile those and then cash them in. The Pick Your Poisons are a bit more versatile, also gets like flying stuff, but Haywire might be able to answer things when they are, like things like Parhelion, where it is something you have to do at instant speed, and other things like that is like super awesome. Pick Your Poison is still very good, so 2 copies of that. Shape of Sanctuary plays nicely into the kind of Enchantress theme we have going on here. It's an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control becomes a target of a spell or ability your opponent controls, you may draw a card. Really good versus like Rakdos and some of the mono black decks. Anything with Fatal Push, this is stellar. Alongside these, we have 1 copy of Heroic Intervention, and 2 copies of Tamio's Safekeeping. So Intervention is like a 1-card protection for all of your permanents, whereas Tamio's Safekeeping is protection for 1 specific one. Hexproof and Indestructible gets around Wrath effects really nicely, and like incidental life gain on the Tamio Safekeeping. This costs 1 mana, so it's easy to hold up, whereas Intervention costs 2, but being able to protect everything, especially when we've got a bunch of enchantments we want to stick around, can be really important. We then have a 2nd copy of a Boseiju we can board into versus decks playing like Temporary Lockdown and that kind of thing. We then have 2 copies of Nissa Voices Zendikar. These really like for the controlling decks in the format as an additional threat. It is freshly on Arena with Pioneer Masters, is very good in scales already, just being able to put counters on each creature you control is really good. But we're playing into the Enchantress theme in the main deck, so I've put these in the sideboard for now. I will say, if you're interested in like other takes on the scales deck, something maybe more traditional, then let me know, and I will definitely put together a build with that, and I'll probably have a bunch of Nissas in the main deck just doing their thing. So hey, and the last thing, one thing here that I was worried about in this deck is aggro. Obviously, like you can like have, when you're on the play, things look good. But when you're in the draw, you can like take a lot of damage very quickly. Your opponent can just like kill you on turn 3. And so there are very few green cards that are good at like gaining life. You don't have like the combo draw that Mono Green Devotion has. You're not gonna kind of scale up as quickly necessarily, but you will be able to put it down the ground. You're not like making a Cavalier of Thorns and trying to like, I've got a Stonewall. And so I've gone for 2 copies of Feed the Clan here. Simply gain 5 life, but once you've got some creatures counters on a creature, not some creatures on a counter, counters on a creature. If you've got Ferocious, so a creature powerful or greater, it just gains 10, and these are kind of keeping us in the game. The Nissas can make like multiple blockers, which are good in theory, but like Monstrous Rage exists. And we have like Tamo Safekeeping here, gains you some life and lets you kind of trade profitably, ideally. Yeah. Well, pinch of salt on those. But if you've got any ideas as well, let me know in the comments. With that being said, I've taken a long time going through everything here. Let's get into some ranked matches. If you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Please do like, share the video around to anybody you think might like it. All that algorithm stuff helps me out an absolute ton, helps support the channel. And yeah, let's get some games in. All right. Who we're working with. Pretty solid opener. Have the makings for everything. I'm gonna lead with the Pelt Collector. The Experiment one's better at getting counters from other things. The Pelt Collector only does power. We have a choice here if we want to go like Generous Visitor into Hardened Scales. That sets us up nicely for next turn. But doesn't... In fact... Yeah, Generate Visitor Hardened Scales now. Let me go like... Yeah, I think that's the best thing just to do. And then we can have some options to us for next turn. It's also tempting to do this. But I'm going to go ahead and just start putting counters naturally on the Pelt Collector. We can get into the red zone. Expect to be in a bit of a racing situation. If they decide to start blocking at some point, then things might get awkward. We'll see. We have the Hunter's Talent to potentially fight here. This is one of the reasons for sequencing this way, given we're against mono red. You have a 2/2 that'll become a 3/3 or 4/4. Able to fight willy-nilly, especially if they attack for a creature here. We have the tools to absolutely punish this. In fact, it is very tempting to block here, just to clear so we can clear the board. I think the payoff for doing this is just too high. This is like obviously insane in our deck, but we have to just kill both their creatures. Yeah. I think they think that we value this a bit too highly. With Scales in play, okay, this is obviously a good draw, but I'll go ahead and hunt this talent here. We'll fight down the Slick Shot and see what they've got left. Next turn we make these two, then after Bristly Bill. Okay, so they still do have extra creatures. That's a little unfortunate. But at the end of the world. Okay, they have a creature heavy hand. That explains the trade at least. So supplement trample. We have the so we can either way we're getting one counter effectively. I'll attack with this. So this can now regenerate itself. If we like play Bristly Bill and then a land, we basically end up with the counters on the Pelt Collector, and this is a 1/1. I like this a little bit better because we have the option of being able to block. Alright, let's see what they hit here. Regenerating this will tap it, and obviously if we move the counters to regenerate, then we don't get to quote unquote trade, but okay. They get like a 2/2 off the back of it. It's not currently got trample. I'm going to do this. Also means it's going to evolve again. While this doesn't have trample, they don't get the 2/2 from the turn inside out for the trading. They just keep this in play. Not the greatest. It's not the end of the world. Okay, that's a little bit awkward. Just because we don't have as many things around. So you want to play Pelt Collector. That lets us get this ability going. And then in this case, if we want to Generous Visitor now, or if we want to level this up. If we level this up, attacking creature gets some own trample. And put things into this. They're at 14. I think this makes sense. The kind of bonus of this is that if they decide they want to trade with this, they don't want to. We're at 16, which is fairly healthy. They only have a couple of cards. And they have a couple of 1/1s in play. Offer a double block? Probably not. Okay. Are they super flooded? They're creature flooded, is what they are. Because here we have Setessan Champion. This evolves this. Does not evolve this, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and make this. And then they're at 9. I guess, yeah, this is a lethal attack. If also sunblocking, I'm going to put the counter here. Basically means that if they decide to trade with either of these will get counters. The logic behind that. They're just going to eat Power Collector. Sure. Puts them on 1. We have a blocker here. We know that has like super sorcery heavy. Okay, Monstrous Rage on halfway here in particular is interesting. Do they have a second one? Is that why this is the play? I think this is right telegraphed. You take 5, 6. Yeah, if they have a Sellsword, we die. Oh, they do. Assumedly. They have a way to fling this at us. Please do not slow roll me. They do have a Sellsword. Alright. That's rough. That's like the 2-card combination of cards to kill us. Alright. Yeah, our opponent kind of drew the cards I needed off the top there to leave us that turn. But also I should have put the extra power from the Hunter's Talent on the 1/1 to not like just have it eaten. With that being said, I think we're still just dead to Monstrous Rage plus Sellsword basically no matter what. One of those things. We'll keep this. This is an interesting showcase like the other half of the deck, I think. So go Generous Visitor. Brushlands implies, I would say, the hexproof deck, like the Light Pause. Oh, yeah, there we go. Which is handy because this sequence allows us. We'll put the Generous Visitor counter on our Generous Visitor, I think, and we'll fight down the Light Pause. Yeah, like the Angels deck and the green-white like Hate Bears deck don't play as many Brushlands. If you're wondering like why that seemed like a weird, like an odd read. We don't have a way to out this, unfortunately. I'm basically thinking about whether we want to play Setessan Champion. I think this is the plan. We get to again do two things next turn. I'll make this attack. This is very risky, but yeah. If they have the 1-mana flash enchantment that gives hexproof and they decide to go for it, thinking that we have nothing, then we are blown out. But hey. They had Shelter by anyway. I assume they go for the champion here, but like this leaves us with quite a lot of power in play. With Light Pause, however, they can kind of, unfortunately, get what they want. Which in this case is all that glitters. Alright, we have second Hunter's Talent, we can pay for it. This becomes a 3. Yeah, no, it's the second part that gives more. Yeah, we need to play multiple enchantments here. That is super rough. I guess we can Hunter's Talent next turn. We'll go for the play we were going to make before and just go double Rangers class. The issue is that if they have like any enchantment, this Light Pause becomes both very lethal and very unkillable. Or well, when I say unkillable, I really mean unfightable. I'll attack here because we can. Yeah, depends what they have. Second Shelter buy. Okay. And that's going to fetch an Ethereal Armor, I guess. Could be some kind of unblockable effect instead. Okay, they're going to go for Vigilance. Oh, and they have the Audacity for Ethereal Armor. Okay, not a great showing so far, but our opponent had the double Light Pause plus Sheltered by, I feel. Yeah, I get it. This will then go get a Hexproof effect, like some kind of unblockable effect. Yeah, they get flying. Still had all these. 2-0 down. That is not where we wanted to start. That was really rough. Yeah, we had the answer. They had the turn 2 light balls on the play. We had an answer, but it was not good enough to beat a second one with the shelter by. We were nearly able to fight it back off again. But yeah, this looks alright. Go ahead and keep here. You're on the other side. I'm going to start with the experiment one. Try and get some counters on it for protection. Just because they're going to likely have rats on the other side here. The regeneration clause should be pretty good, hopefully. Okay. Innkeeper's talent. So if we draw the land, this evolves the experiment one. If we don't draw the land, we can try and level this up. We have Paradise Druid. And we drew the land. So we'll go to Setessan Champion here. They won't want to wrath their Druid away, at least. I'll put the counter on the experiment one here. I'm going to stack the counters here so that we can have them to remove to get protection. We'll see. If they tap the Paradise Druid here, we will fight it down. But I don't necessarily expect that to be the case. They are going to do that to cast Pillage the Bog, which is fine by us. Let's look at the top 6 with 3 lands in play. Pretty nice. Let them kind of basically shoot it for whatever they want. But ideally, so the rats that the Niv deck plays are 1 copy of Deafening Clarion and 1 copy of Sunfall. The Sunfall, the experiment one is immune to. Sorry, the Sunfall we are toast to, like it attacks other creatures. The experiment one is some protection from. I'm just thinking if we want to split our counters up here. Let's cast Hunter's Talent, draw off the Setessan Champion. They could have we'll do this in case they do have a Leyline Binding. I don't want to lose experiment one to an exile effect. Okay, it looks like they do have a Leyline Binding. This would be a reason to use the Innkeeper's Talent effect first. We do at least get the card draw. Okay, that's pretty rough. Yeah, it's a really... I mean, we still kind of get got. And they just get to exile one of them, but then we could level this up and then do this other way. Give that being said, though, the way this is gone, we want to use experiment one. Sorry, play out the Pellet Collector. I will split the counters up at this point, just so the Pellet Collector will be bigger than the Paradise Druid, no matter what. And we'll see what happens here. So they're on 10. There you go. Unfortunately, Mercedes is in play. We don't have a way to get this back. But it's not the end of the world, necessarily. We can have Sunfall here. Sunfall here would be not great, but we have Setessan Champion to follow up with. This set does play a ton of removal, and a ton of like exile-based removal that can hit permanents as well, which can be very frustrating. Or annoying. Here we go. Okay, we hit land. I'm gonna level this up. Do they have any responses? They don't. Something to combat. Sure. I'll go counter on the Pellet Collector here. Okay, we'll go into the red zone. We're leaving ourselves open for some options. They've committed more creatures to the board, so it's like maybe they're baiting us into Sunfall. I will allow this to happen and play the Setessan Champion. Maybe leads us to think, oh, they do have a... This also gets bigger, which is kind of nice. Yeah. We're like worried about, oh, they made a double block here, maybe they're leading to Sunfall, but it's hard to say. They need blue or black. A blue or black source to bring to light for 5 for Sunfall. That is an untapped black source. That is a Sunfall. Alright. 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 Kudos to you. I think we're a little better getting this way around. That way if we draw a more enchantment later. This is an artifact, doesn't trigger the Setessan champion. This way we have like a threat in play. They do have a Fable. The Fable is very annoying. That's true. However, we have some stuff going on. Oh, Night of Autumn is huge. What do they go for here? Kind of interesting. So they don't have like a second Sunfall. But we're like... They do have this as a 2-2 which you need to be like, aware of. Tap Stomping Ground, a couple of mana open. They do have black-white. We have Hunter's Talent here, which is quite good. They can't pay for... Well, I'm going to cast this. As I said, they can't pay for Ward very well. I'm going to try and fight down the Reflection. Reflection is just the more powerful creature. If they have a Leyline Binding, we're in trouble. If they don't, then we are not that badly off. And then we have a choice here if we want to get Trample or we want to just go for counters. I think having one of these leveled up is quite good. Don't think they could. Oh, they could double block here, right, with these. Yeah, let's activate for counters here. That way they can't make a good double block. Alright, so they've got 2 cards in hand. They can get like Yorion, but they have to use some mana here. They get to use this thing at a turn. They have access to some more mana. We tax them a little bit for the Sorry, they actually got rid of the Innkeeper's talent. I'm just talking complete rubbish, kind of. Depends what they have. So up the Beanstalk gets them a card. The longer this game goes, we just lose. Okay, adding Yorion and leaving red open. That should be good for us. Alright, and we just have to go for it here. All counters here. Level up the Hunter's Talent. We're kind of committed here. And we'll get Trample. Yeah, that'll do it. Alright, alright. Nice. Alright. Nice win there versus Niv. Go to 1 and 2 overall. I think we did a pretty good job using our resources. I did like play... I was talking about having the Innkeeper talent after they'd blown it up and how it gave us ward and that they could have access to less removal. I mean, that was kind of true, but like, yeah, they didn't have ward anymore. The ward one like is like the extra mana attacks does help a lot. It's one thing to bear in mind. Like, hey, before you play a creature, think about whether you want to level this stun, because if you can, just give it some extra protection. You don't want them responding the other way, because you can't do that at instant speed. We have like a pretty decent start here with Experiment 1 into Bristly Bill. We have some other options too. Like, you might want to play the Ranger class. The Bristly Bill, like, if we don't draw the third land, then maybe we want to make classes out of Bill, and then we can still level up the class and beat down. But it depends. We will keep though. Cat. Uh-oh. Alright. Assumably, we have to learn to assume it's like Jund Sacrifice, like the black-red splash cat splash like Yigra combo. I'll no block here even though I want to, but hey. Let's see what they got. Yeah, Blood Crypt into Harvester. Fair enough. Okay, so given this, we don't want to play Bristly Bill. We also don't want to like strictly trade our opponent's terms. I'm gonna play Ranger class. We'll put the counter on the Experiment 1. We'll attack here. Basically, like, hey, you have a Blood-Tithe Harvester. You can block this, or you can use this on your turn, but you can't do both. So we'll like end up with the creature here. Kind of giving them an option, but also not like entirely. And then if they end up using the blood token, like we get a bit more stuff going on. They're going to attack here. If they want to try and race, I'm totally happy with that. I'm just going to no block this. They come in for 3, we go to 15. The race is on. Do they have a Cauldron? Oh, Mayhem Devil. That's the wrong talent. That's the wrong talent. Kind of. No, it is the wrong talent. How do we not just... Okay. We're a class. I'm putting the counter here because the counter here later on is like... Basically, like, they might, like, block it. Maybe that's that device. I don't know. Alright, anyway. I guess they're not going to block with the Mayhem Devil, but it's an interesting one where if they force the block and then, like, yeah. Giving them the option to here to Bloodtithe Harvest the Experiment one, I'm kind of fine with that. I want them to use resources now while they don't have more stuff going on with the Mayhem Devil. Our import's good. Second Mayhem Devil's bad for us. Oh golly, they have 2 damage on a stick. Look at blood. Yeah, okay. That is creatures dying. They're gonna shoot this down. They can they can like sacrifice the Bloodtithe Harvest, but it's gonna come into the red zone, I imagine. And then we'll like have a real problem. Like we kind of need mana, but also 1 land doesn't do anything. We really need 2. Awkwardly. Yeah, like here. Okay, so the Bloodtithe Harvester does sacrifice. We're currently on 9. They have 9 power in play. The Innkeeper or talent will buff one of our creatures. The Ranger class will do nothing right now. We can make the Ozolith and do... It's all really bad. I guess our play is to do this. And then move to combat. We'll put the counter on the Generous Visitor so it doesn't just get eaten for free. Because they do have to pay each point of damage a war trigger. The worry is that we're on 9, they can just kind of burn us out here. Given the option, we're going to block our Mayhem Devil. If need be, we can like block the high tops around the Mayhem Devil. That leaves them with the Devil and us with nothing. So we need them to be drawing a little dead. Given the Fountain Port, this looks more like... Okay, they're actually going to play the tax. Okay. Alright. Yeah, fair. We're just dead. I know. We have like a lot of unwanted things in the deck. We're just gonna lose to the other one of these, unfortunately. We need one of the Innkeeper's talent to be a Hunter's talent. That's fair enough. Alright, 1 and 3 with the deck. That's not where we want to be. I do need to say that I was recording an extra match has been cut out, where our opponent mulliganed to 5. We played an Experiment 1 and they just conceded. Maybe a waste of time to include. This, we were on the play with like Rangers class into talent into Setessan champion. I'm going to keep the splits a bit slow. And that's been a bit of a theme today. One thing that I've been considering as we've kind of lost a few of these matches is that what if, instead of playing like Pelt Collect in Experiment 1, we just had like 4 Elvish Mystics of all Llanowar Elves? And that would mean where we have these like, hey look, here's a hand of 2-drop enchantments. We just get to play them all out. And like these are putting counters on creatures by themselves. We don't necessarily need to have the Pelt Collectors and that thing. So the Generous for this is still great. I like the element of the deck we have like 12 1-drops. I think that's really good. They took the Champion, which implies that they have lots of ways to deal with like the Ranger class creatures. If this game goes late, I feel pretty good about things. We'll play this out. They're afraid of the Champion. I'll cast this. This is a little bit more difficult to answer for the Rakdos deck. They have around 3 main deck answers for it, without enabling Fatal Push. Fatal Push. So interesting. Yeah, we can't block it, that's for sure. And then what's the follow? They were looking at the blade and then at us champion, and then at the blade and the champion, and I'm like, what's the catch here? So yeah, that's one. Oh, they're gonna sacrifice it to Exile. Sure, we're fine with that. That's a 2 for 1. That's a Setessan champion effectively drawing a card. We'll take that. And we have a lot to do with our mana as is. I'm gonna go ahead and cast Ranger Cast, and I will Innkeeper's talent here. We will put counters on the non-Semitic Wolf. I will say Rakdos mid-range I'm gonna immediately lose for saying this. It might be one of the best matchups of this variation of the deck. They've obviously like been land slightly here. They've got an Urborg, solid, but just the enchantments being able to just level up and just keep doing things and doing things and doing things. Yeah, it's pretty powerful. Land's not actually terrible here. I'm gonna go ahead and level up this first. Kind of prompt them to use removal now. They're not going to do that. We'll level up each of these, and then next time we can level up one. Oh. And then these distribute counters on the second step. Bonus counter on this one. And we get water across the board. We'll split the damage up. One of these here. One of these here. Fatal Bush kills one of these. But again, not the end of the world. And we have Future Sight coming on the top of the library, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, so like there's two other ways to look at this. One is that you have like a more traditional Scales deck with less of these enchantment things. You still would probably play some copies of Innkeeper's Talent, some copies of Ozolith, but you wouldn't play like Setessan Champion. You play a bit lower down the curve, and have maybe a bit more interactive. So I'm curious what people think about that. You can even do like go the artifacts theme with like Patchwork Automaton. That's also very good, I would say. 1, 2, 3, 7. I think this is lethal. Yep. There we go. Nice. And another way is like just going all elves and then those, like I said. Alright, we managed to pull back to uncomfortable 2 and 3. Or like 3 and 3. We did have one match. Like sometimes you just win games on arena because your opponent just mulligans into oblivion. Alright, so the like enchantment bits of the deck. I've always kind of been a fan of Ranger class in these like kind of Hardened Scales decks. But there's a lot of things here which are not necessarily like, I would say, core. And there's a few different ways you can build it. The enchantment package of like these cards here, Generous Visitor was like great, amazing every time. It being 1 mana is like a huge amount of that effect, and these being like stuck here in hand being like, oh, we just have a million 2 mana things to do. Awkward. The like matches where Setessan Champion was good, like the control games like that, they just kind of have to kill it. We saw the Rat Dust deck 2-for-1 themselves to get rid of it because they just knew they were going to lose. And so it is like a powerful card. Similarly, like Ranger's class makes a creature and then like has an incidental ability here to level up to be able to put counters on things. Talent, putting a counter on anything that's doing every turn. The level 2 ability, the permanency control, counters on have Ward 1. Also really good. And then Hunter's Talent is an awkward removal spell, but is an enchantment and kind of like fits into the deck despite not being fantastic. Getting Trample is very powerful. That's awesome. With that being said, we have a lot of cards with Innkeeper's Talent and Hunter's Talent that don't necessarily do things by themselves. These, alongside the Hardened Scales and the Ozoliths here, don't really do anything by themselves in play. Like, these are non-creature spells that we're playing in the deck. And these also kind of clump up a lot. We're often dying with like a bunch of like 2-mana enchantments in hand, and that's something to like be like aware of and a little concerned about. One thing I did mention is like taking these experiment ones and Pale Collectors and just replacing them with Llanowar Elves and Elvish Mystics. I think that if you're going down this route, because the enchantments have so much stuff to do and so many like ways to sink mana, you're never going to really flood out like that. Never is a crazy... You're not going to like totally flood out like that, and it does smooth things out, and you don't lose that much not getting the evolve triggers because you've not got that much stuff to evolve. And it lets you like play into like the Bristly Bill like overrun a style effect if you want to as well, because you're getting to 5 mana more often. It plays nicely with Setessan Champion, be able to like turn to this potentially, and then like start drawing a ton of cards. Those are quite cool. There's also the artifact way to build a deck. Like I've done stuff with like Steel Overseer and Agatha's Soul Cauldron. That stuff is pretty cool. You got Patchwork Automaton on that side as well on the artifact side, or you can play like just like scales, straight up scales, whether being green, white, black, green, or like Abzan. There are some really nice counters doubling effects that are on creatures that are powerful. So let me know if you want to see more scale stuff. There is an Explorer Best of 3 qualifier happening in a weekend. I'm probably going to play like Oculus in that, But I'm looking for other decks that people would like to see as well. Oculus is kind of like the new hot thing. This and like the blue-black deck that we played again. The blue-black deck I played in a video quite recently where you're like, it's like blue-black waste, not where you're bound to commit your own permanents to make your opponent discard cards. It's really, really cool. Definitely recommend checking that out if you're interested. But yeah, this deck was fine, but it was like a little underwhelming. But yeah, if you've got any ideas as well, let me know in the comments. Please do like, subscribe if you enjoyed the video, share it around if you know anybody who you think might enjoy it. And yeah, all that stuff helps a ton. Thanks for watching. Peace out. Have a great day.